All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're tackling a topic that feels, well, it feels deeply personal for so many of us, the crushing weight of working parent burnout. And you know, it's so much more than just a buzzword. It's a daily reality we really need to unpack.
I mean, does this question just hit a little too close to home? That constant feeling of having way too many balls in the air, and that nagging fear that at any second, one of them, or maybe all of them, are about to come crashing down? If you feel that way, you are definitely not alone.
And then, when you go looking for help, you're just slammed with this tidal wave of articles, right? All about juggling and balancing and coping. Honestly, the sheer volume of advice out there can feel almost as overwhelming as the problem itself.
And this is a really big deal. This isn't just about a bunch of us struggling individually. The U.S. Surgeon General himself has called it a public health concern. That completely changes the conversation. It moves it from being a personal problem you have to solve on your own to a massive, systemic issue that affects all of us.
Okay, so let's really dive in. We're going to get past those headlines and look at what the actual data tells us about who's feeling this pressure the most. And I gotta say, some of these numbers might really surprise you.
So, let's start with a really common myth. A lot of people think government jobs are the golden ticket for working parents, right? They're supposed to be stable, predictable, family-friendly, kind of the ideal setup.
Well, get ready for this, because the data just flips that script completely. A staggering 52% of parents in government jobs report burnout. 52%! That's compared to 35% for parents across the country. That makes them 1.5 times more likely to be completely burned out. Wow!
So what is going on here? Why are these numbers so high? Well, the research points to a few major culprits. A whopping 67% say it's their workload. And then you've got staff shortages and time pressures both clocking in at 50%. It paints a pretty clear picture of a workforce that is just stretched to its absolute limit.
Now, here's another real shocker. You'd think working from home would be the solution, the silver bullet for all this stress. But look at this. 40% of parents who worked remotely actually reported high parenting stress. That's compared to just 27% of parents who were working on site. So, working from home was actually more stressful for a lot of parents.
And it gets even more interesting when you break it down by gender. For moms, the stress increase from working at home was pretty small, not really a huge jump. But for dads, fathers working from home were twice as likely to report high parenting stress. It seems that when dads are physically at home, they might feel this incredible pressure to be the perfect, always-on employee and the perfect, always-on caregiver, all at the same time.
Okay, so we see that the stress is happening. But let's talk about how. How does that stress from your job, whether it's at an office or your kitchen table, actually seep into your family life? Well, scientists have a couple of key concepts that explain exactly how this works.
The first idea is called the spillover effect, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. Stress doesn't stay in its little box. The intense demands and pressures from your job, they just spill over. They don't stop at 5 p.m. They come home with you and start to chip away at your family relationships.
And you can see the chain reaction right here. It starts with high work stress. That can lead to a parent feeling more depressed or even aggressive. And what's the result of that? A weaker bond between the parent and their child. It's a really clear and honestly devastating path from a tough day at work to a strained relationship at home.
Then there's the second concept, the crossover effect. Now, if spillover is about stress moving between different parts of your life, like from work to home, crossover is about stress moving between people. A parent's stress, fueled by their job, can actually be transmitted directly to their child. It literally crosses over and affects the child's own emotional state.
So, this is the crucial part. Now that we understand these forces, the spillover and crossover, we can get a lot more intentional about building up a defense, a buffer. It's not about trying to eliminate all stress, because that's impossible. It's about managing its impact.
And the research is pretty clear that we have to fight this on two fronts. First, you've got individual strategies, things that you and I can do in our own lives. And second, there are systemic solutions, the big changes that our workplaces and our employers need to make.
So, on the personal level, this really means getting serious about building that firewall. What does that look like? It might mean a hard stop at 5 p.m., no exceptions. Or maybe it's making family dinner a sacred no phones allowed zone. It's about literally scheduling downtime on your calendar, like it's an appointment you can't miss, and proactively telling your friends and family what you need before you hit a breaking point.
But look, what we do on our own is never going to be enough. Organizations have a massive role to play here.
And this is about more than just some vague flex time policy. It means a manager who actively encourages a parent to log off for their kid's school play. It means proper workforce planning so one person's vacation doesn't send the whole team into a tailspin. It's about building a culture where a boss taking their kid to the dentist is seen as totally normal, not a sign of weakness.
So, as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this question. A call to action, really. Looking at everything we've just talked about, from the surprising data to the science of stress, what is one real, tangible boundary you can set this week to start getting some of your balance back? Because understanding the problem is the first step, for sure. But taking that one small action, that's how we actually start to fix it.